Welcome to Lost Sheep Found. I'm your host, Carrie. This is the final part of Amanda's story, so if you haven't listened to part 1 or 2, please go back and listen now. As with all episodes, our hope is that by sharing her journey, others may find comfort knowing they are not alone. There is hope. Also, I want to take a moment to inform you that this episode contains explicit language, discussions about sensitive topics related to religion, personal struggles, sexual abuse, and other stories that may trigger strong emotions. If you are experiencing a crisis or mental health challenge, please seek guidance from a qualified professional.
Don't have a dime to my name, and my debt to you could never...
Let's go. I know I've been praying and talking to nobody anyway. I'm pretty sure he's not going to show up in this moment, but if he really doesn't want this to happen, I'm open for it. Yep, didn't think so. Okay, so get in, take her home. Way too far for her to be walking. Took her home. And as I drove away, we had this nice conversation. I wish I knew where that woman was. I wish I knew her name so I could look her up. I don't know who. I don't remember. But as I drove away, I just said, you know what, God, I know you're not there. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you think about me. And that was it. I was done. I think I was 27. And, Hudson was 2 at the time. And it took me a while. I actually planned, because I knew once I was done that nobody would ever talk to me again, even my own family that were witnesses. So I had a huge house party. I bought a disco ball. I cleared all the furniture. Got speakers. I went all out. I hired a DJ, actually, a friend of mine. And, my brother, all these people from Washington, because I grew up in Washington, they flew in. And I just kept doing rounds with the conversion van, just picking up people. My house was full of people. I don't even know, probably 200 people. There were sleeping bags everywhere, every room. And we just, all weekend, we just kept ordering food, and it was like the biggest hangout ever. All my friends for most of my life that I had seen, and they were just like, this is the best ever. And I'm like, I love you guys. And that was my goodbye for myself.
Your exit party.
That was my exit party, and they didn't know it, but I knew. Once they went home, okay, I'm going to move on with my life. I'll probably never see you again. But I appreciate the role that you've played. You meant something to me. And I love you. And I just wanted to have the time. And it was fun.
And to this day, you don't speak with anyone?
Most of them, no. I think some of them, out of curiosity, have added me on Facebook. But if I message them or something, which I don't, they don't respond. Even my brother has taken a while. He's come around a little bit recently, which is very exciting. I think maybe something's brewing. Because he's been sending me pictures and videos of his kids, and having his kids ask me questions, his daughters, and I'm like, wow, that's new. Because usually I would text something and I just get crickets, no response. But I'm like, you know what? I don't text because I want to get something. If I reach out to you, I'm gonna offer you love. Yeah. And I'm moving on. I have no expectation, because when I was in the program, I understood the program, and they're still in the program. So I get it. Now I'm not going to be mad at them all of a sudden because I figured it out. They don't know. They think God's going to kill them if they talk to me. And now I'm just so glad that I don't believe that anymore, Yeah. So yeah, 27, that was it. And it's so funny. You would think the abuse or all these other things would have been the thing that would have been oh, I'm done, I'm out. But it was how they treated that woman. That's not me. That is not who I am, and it is not who I want to be. And if that's who I have to be to fit in with this program, I want out. I'm done. You cannot make me treat people like that. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give the person a ride. I'm going to share the psalm book. I'm going to do what I want to do. And I just can't explain, if you don't understand that, I just can't even with you guys.
Yeah. You're not going to be unkind for...
No. Yeah. For what? To prove that I'm super religious or something? And it's the Pharisees. It's total opposite of the way God thinks about things. But they're so right in their mind.
Yeah. Could you imagine if God disassociated us, or what did you call it? Disfellowship.
Yeah, they disfellowship. Right. Cut
that's
off.
The opposite of what God...
Totally.
I would be screwed.
I would too. I would too.
I think a lot of us. I think there would be nobody going to heaven.
A way of thinking that's black or white, or you have to do it this way. There's no gray area to kindness or love. You can't talk to this person.
Her and nothing.
But
Her dad molested
And
her
that happens in all religions, I'm sure.
Oh, I know.
You know, I mean, the Catholic Church is everywhere, anywhere, any scenario.
Yep.
Your line that was drawn was that it's unkind to this woman. You didn't even
Passionate.
see that it was unkind to you. You still stuck with it.
Yeah.
You're making this woman walk. Walking in heels down the street. I mean, that was too unkind to you.
That's funny. Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it like that.
You had a child.
Yes.
You left the church.
Yep.
What's happening?
Oh, well, that's this is a whole other podcast. If only it was that clean. So here's a lot of things about, this is not an excuse, but for those listening, if they've been through this thing, we all exit out of this trauma in different ways. And mine was very typical of what a lot of people who've been through sexual abuse do. But to me, it was like, well, I've been used in all these ways that I don't want to be used. I'm going to go do it with the people I want to do it with. And it was, I mean, to me, I just felt like everything's been done. It's not like there's anything sacred anymore. It's how I felt. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing special, nothing sacred. There's nothing hidden. There's nothing that I don't know, even stuff I shouldn't know. And so what is left? It's my will. It's what I want to do with who I want to do it with, which was like half the world. So that was my comfort. I basically became a predator. Mm-hmm. I just would go shopping for men, and this is the ugly part that a lot of people don't talk about. It's like, oh, well, this bad stuff happened, and then Jesus saved me, and now it's amazing. I have this husband and these kids. Yeah, well, what happened was, I got married young to an abusive man. I left. I literally ran away. We did not have any children, thank God. When I went to Arizona, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer shortly after she moved to Arizona. So I literally left Washington and fled to Arizona to go be with her, but also to get away from this ex-husband, mailed him divorce papers, a restraining order, and the whole thing. And then I met my second husband. Just a mess, really nice guy, has his own demons, which my on and off switches didn't really pick up on. His numbness, which I learned later was a drug addiction, perfectly matched up with my numbness of needing an emotional partner. I didn't really have a need for that because I really hadn't dealt with my layers of trauma yet. So where somebody else would be feeling like, you are disconnected from me, you're not really present, to me it was amazing. It was like, well, he does his thing and I do mine. He likes working out for 4 hours, and I don't know why he talks so fast and why he doesn't come home for 3 days. I'm not sure, but I don't know. My girlfriends are here, and so see ya. It was totally reliving itself, but in ways that I didn't yet understand until one day I walked in on him snorting something off my cutting board, and that was like, oh, I think I understand some things now. And more importantly, I think I understand some things about me. Like, how could I not even judge this? I mean, at all. People are like, oh, there's signs. Oh, they were. Just I wasn't going to see them. I did not see them. I didn't feel them. I wasn't missing anything. I met him exactly where he was. We were both just broken, And so, yes, we had Hudson. He was, I don't know, probably like a year old when I realized that he had this problem. And he was very forthcoming after that. Like, this is what I like to do, and I don't want to give it up. And I'm like, well, I kind of need somebody to do life with, you know what I mean? I think this isn't working for me as a person. I need to hang out and talk. And he's like, well, get a boyfriend because, I just want to do what I want to do, and I like having you around. And so if you want to talk and have stuff, then just find someone else to do it with because, I want to be checked out. I was like, okay, well, that's one way of doing it. So that's what I did. I found a boyfriend. Well, I got pregnant with that person. And the only deal was he just didn't want to know who it was. So here comes baby number 2, and he's about 5 months old, and I'm like, oh boy, I don't think he's yours. And he's like, what? No, he's mine. I'm like, no, it looks like the other guy. And he's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, pretty sure. And that's the dysfunction, right?
A casual conversation about that.
A normal conversation about this kid is not yours. I think he is. And he said, well, you want to go to Mexican? I said, yeah. And it was our favorite little restaurant if we could walk to. We walked to it.
Wow.
Ate food, had dinner. There's no anger. There's no fighting. It's my brokenness meeting his brokenness. I just want to do what I want to do, and I'm doing what I want to do. And we're just going to both look the other way. Let's just, and to us, it seemed like we had found the magic sauce for why we were happily married.
Yeah, you weren't fighting.
We're not fighting.
You're not punching him in the nose like you'd seen in your earlier years in the house.
No, yeah, exactly.
No
This
physical.
is okay.
Yeah,
We're happy.
I'm thinking I've got it figured out. I'm not screaming and yelling, and he wasn't mad. He's like, just let's not tell the family. I mean, this is our decision. It's what's it have to do with them? And I'm like, and I was watching the boys play one day in the room. There's Jacoby crawling around, and Hudson's going down his little plastic slide, and and again, we have like this beautiful house. My husband has his own company. We have on the outside all the makings of a successful American family life, 2 little boys, but on the inside, it's just a mess. Total disaster. And it wasn't until I really watched Jacoby and I see he looks so different than Hudson, and I thought, you know what? I can't do this to him. Like, I'm happy, I'm fine. I feel like this doesn't bother me that much. But for him, like, what am I going to say? Like, that's not his biological father. I've now created this mess for this little boy. And so I just told him, like, no, I can't. I told him, I can't do this to him. You got to you got to go to rehab. You got to get your life straight. And we really got to work on this marriage. Like, we got to stop living like this, because I will never stop doing whoever. And you're going to keep doing drugs. If we could just stop, both of us, and we can forge ahead together, then let's do it. We'll fix the mess with the kids. And he just didn't want to do that. And he's like, no, I don't think I have as big of a problem as other people have. I'm going to keep going. And so I knew Hudson would always have his dad. He's never going to give that up. But I needed Jacoby was my wake-up call. Thank God for that kid. It was like, I don't know even what it is. Like, I need to create. I've not had it. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know. I'm not sure that I can even do it, but I have to try. I gotta try and put together this, like, normal house for him. I gotta get it together. I gotta figure it out. I have to do better. I can't have him in this, like, dysfunction and just recreate this mess, And so that was it. Moved out. Oh, man, single mom for years. Just, trying to make it happen. And because my ex-husband's family still really devout Jehovah's Witnesses, they tried really hard to remove me from his life. I mean, it wasn't just like get divorced and have custody. Yeah. It was, they tried to cut, they actually called CPS on me and said, well, we think she's sexually abusing Hudson. Oh. And when they said why, they said, well, because she was sexually abused, so we're pretty sure she's doing that to him. So I'm leaving for work, and I have some lady show up, and she wants to ask me questions about this, and I was like, come on in. I'm like, you make yourself, move in if you want to. You be here as long as you want to. I'm like, I know what it's like to have gone through that, and I would die before I would do that to anyone else. I said, but you stay as long as you need to, and get whatever you need to figure out whatever you need for your report. And so they had a cousin call me and like, you remember that time we had sex? And I'm like, no, because that never happened. But they had the police on the call. I don't know what they thought.
Trying to trick you.
Trying to like what? Who in their right mind would admit to something they've never done? And like, is that supposed to be a joke? They'd be like, would I say yes to something like that? I'm like, why are you calling? And then I was like, listen, whatever my ex-husband's put you up to, you really need to stay out of, like, this whole thing with Hudson. I said, Chris, trust me. I said, if push comes to shove, if you get ahead on this, I'm like, I can do the same thing. I could just say you raped me, and then who will go to jail? One of us is going to go away on a lie, and I'm going to assure you, a mother's going to fight harder than you will. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? This is the ugliness. And so basically because they couldn't win that way, they just picked him up one day from childcare from this woman I had hired. She had an in-home daycare, licensed daycare. And my mother-in-law, I didn't know then, but she just came, showed up, picked him up, and she took him for like 6 months. I didn't see him. He was 2. And he was just gone. I showed up to pick up my kids at the end of the day, and there was only Jacoby there, and Hudson was gone. And by the time I even saw him, I mean, Hudson didn't even know me. He didn't want to go with me. He didn't want to hug me. So they picked him up, put him on a plane, and took him to Wisconsin. And in the meantime, I was driving around Arizona every day, all these streets, like trying to find him everywhere. Where did they put him? No one would answer me. No one from the Kingdom Hall would take my call. Yes. I would sit outside across the street from the Kingdom Hall on Sundays and watch everybody going in, everybody coming out, thinking maybe they're there. And it's all in the ugliness of the religion. They just really, truly believed that if I wasn't going to raise him a Jehovah Witness since I was leaving, then he would be better off with them because he's going to die. And they don't want him to die at Armageddon. Insane. Just more layers of like hard, you know what I mean?
Hard hurt, yeah. And then it just always getting put back on you.
Yeah. They're going to throw the abuse in my face, you know? But you know what? It worked out because one of the mediation meetings, my ex, I wouldn't have known who filed the report unless they told me. And my ex-husband admitted that it was his mom that had filed the report. And the court mediator said if she ever does it again, the both of you are going to be facing some serious consequences, possibly even jail time, because you cannot file a false CPS report. Yeah. And so that ended that. But it was just... You know what I mean? I don't know. It was like a test. Like, how tough are you, and are you going to get through this one? You just have to keep going. Yeah. You got to fight. You got to fight, yeah.
A lot of fighting.
Yeah, I know. Which is why I call the book Fighting for Me.
Yes. It was fighting for sure. Every step along the way for yourself.
And for your children.
And at this point, for your children. Yeah.
But this is where, like, the faith part came in, because I realized at some point, I got a really good job in Arizona. I was making good money, but I worked a lot. I had really good childcare for my kids, but I wasn't there. I had to work all the time. And so I had put together this proposal to be the local sales rep here in California. I really didn't think I would get it, because they had never had an outside salesperson before, and I was the newest one of the company, and I was the only one that didn't have a degree. Because in Jehovah Witness world, you were, at least then, you were not allowed to go to college. That was I had friends who got kicked out because they went to the University of Arizona, and they said, well, you can't be Jehovah Witness then. We're going to kick you out. So they dropped out of college and came back so that they could get in good standing. So I never was raised with, like, you were going to play sports and you're going to go to college and you're going to have a career. It was, I don't know what they thought. They're just, I don't know, you work doing something to try to scrape by and you figure it out. So I didn't have a lot of the things on paper that a lot of people did when you get out into adult world, you know, but I was a hard worker, and I was fast at learning, and I was willing. Like, if you just give me a chance, I will, as long as it's not illegal. Like, you don't need a degree to do it. I can learn, you know what I mean? And so I finally, like, had my big break. I got this really good job. I was making good money, and I just didn't have the schedule that I needed. And so I typed up this proposal, and I got a yes. They said, okay, we'll ship you up there. We'll move your stuff, and you can go there, and let's give it a try. And so I ended up renting a room from a guy in Mission Viejo. He had a big house with a bunch of rooms, like 5-6 rooms, and they were working professionals in all the rooms. And he let me have the downstairs. I had my own room and my own bathroom. Everything else was like upstairs besides the kitchen. And it was perfect because there were people around just enough, so if I needed help or I wanted to ask them a question about something, there was somebody at some point during the day that was going to be around. I wasn't totally alone. And it was super cheap. It was, you know, at the time, $600 for a room and the bathroom, and literally me and my kids slept on an air mattress that we borrowed from a coworker, and it was awesome. It was like, I don't know, it was just fun, you know, like we had our little TV and we had our little bouncy bed, and I could take them to school in the morning, I could pick them up in the afternoon, and I just kept them busy. There's a park at the end of the street, and they would run around till they about want to pass out, feed them, shower them, and put on their movie at night. And then I had this very strong, like, desire to start this foundation, you know, which is a whole other thing. But at nighttime, I would be typing away on the laptop trying to, like, get my little articles put together, all the stuff I needed to do. And the guy who rented me the room had broke a rib playing soccer. And I mean, I thought I would see more people in the house. And I work from home. You know, they let me work from home and have 2 kids, which is like unheard of, right?
At that time, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even for us before COVID,
Yeah.
no one really worked remote.
No one did.
Sometimes, but not as common. So
Yeah.
that was like
Yeah,
way
back
ahead of the time.
It was back in 2012. Yeah,
Yeah.
people weren't doing that. And so it just was like such a perfect setup. But yeah, he got hurt. And so he had come down one night. He's like, do you mind if I watch TV? I'm like, this is your house. Of course. Watch TV. You know, I'm just working on the laptop. And I started telling him because, I mean, I have been married twice. I have 2 kids with 2 different dads. I was now going through bankruptcy because my ex-husband had pulled out $80,000 of credit card stuff in my name, which I didn't know, to feed his habit. And, you know, they were looking for me. And so one day I got this, the HR guy was like, we got this letter. They want to garnish your wages, like $1,500 a paycheck. And I'm like, what? So he's like, there's a lawyer, go right now. So that was like wrapping up, you know, as I was moving to Arizona. And, you know, I was really just not in the mood. You know, I made enough money. I didn't need a man. I was not in the market for a relationship. I just wanted to be left alone. Like, so many people had caused me so many problems. Like, the only way I knew I had no drama was if I'm just me and my kids. You know what I mean? And that's enough. And so, you know, he's nice, and he's like, oh, you know, my name's Luis, and I'm from Peru. He's like, just talking about family, you know, and his upbringing and things like that. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's nice. I'm like, well, I've been married twice. My kids have different dads. I'm finishing up a bankruptcy, and I'm starting a sexual abuse foundation because that's what I went through, you know? And he's like, oh. He's like, well, tell me more about the, you know. And I said, oh, yeah, and I'm in the middle of an ugly custody case with my ex-husband. He's like, oh. And he, like, he heard the rest of it, but that's the one thing that he, like, hit his heart. And he said, you know, you shouldn't fight him. You should just give him what he wants and do everything you can to be as loving as possible. I was like, that sounds right. It's totally opposite of what anyone else had ever said to me about this situation. It's always fight. You have to fight. It's your kids. You must, you know what I mean? You're moving away, but you must take him with you, you know, Hudson with me. And he comes and he says the total opposite. Just don't fight. And he said, just create one loving household. Your son will come back to you. I was like, wow. Okay. I'm going to try that. I'm like, but when they text me, I want to kill them. I'm like, I don't speak stupid. And do you see? It's just tons of stupid through my phone whenever they talk, you know. He's like, just ignore it. Just answer the things you need to answer and don't get into it. Don't let them get you. I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't say much to him because I'm like, oh, he's probably just trying to work his angle for whatever he to get to me. But I knew what he was saying was right, as off as it seemed, as opposite as it seemed. And he ended up inviting me to Calvary Chapel, Pacific Hills. And it took about, you know, we started dating, and it was about 1.5 years of just listening. Because I had a lot of Jehovah Witness, even though I wasn't going to that Jehovah Witness religion anymore, it's all I really knew. I had never, like, read the Bible for myself. I didn't actually know what was in it. There were so many things I didn't know. I just knew what I had believed my whole life. And so he started showing me the Bible and how to read it. And Dave Rolfe was, like, knocked my socks off. Because, I mean, he got up there with the Harley Davidson shirt and jeans. Like, in Jehovah Witness world, you always had to be dressed up. Men had to have, like, the perfect haircut. Everything was always about what it looked like on the outside. You could be abusing your kids behind the doors, but as long as on the outside, everybody could look and say, oh, well, those people have it together. And he was total opposite. He, like, gets on the stage and he tells stories about people being stupid.
He says a lot of things, and you hear people audibly
gasping in the stands or in the seats.
In the seats.
Yeah.
You hear,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my God, he just said that.
Yes. So a lot of people I invited to church and they, like, never went again, but he was what I needed.
It's true.
He was real. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I know that when this man is teaching me something about the Bible, I can trust this. because he is not putting on any kind of airs. He does not care what people think. If they find the door, he'll help you find it. I needed that. I needed something real, like, so that I could start to shed these layers of, you know, trauma and not being able to be authentic and vulnerable. It was okay. I know what that looks like and sounds like now. We're not walking around trying to make sure it fits. But just be yourself. Let God work it
And it's
out.
okay.
Of all of the things he said, the fact that he said stupid on the stage, it was like,
Yeah.
I know. Like, this is the man that God used to speak to me.
He has said some great. I mean, there's been some crazy things.
But look how it connects to
but
people.
He talks. He's honest about it. He's like, oh, I'm gonna get an email on Monday about that.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
because
That's
somebody
awesome.
didn't like it.
Yeah.
He's not there to please everyone.
No. And that's what, it's comforting though, right? To know, like, God uses us, right?
Yeah.
He's not waiting for us to be polished and perfect, or, I don't know, replace our brain and make us
Right.
think like somebody else. No, he, just as you are, he uses that vessel, because for sure, I'm like, I don't think it could have been anyone else but Dave Rolfe. But he was just so, get rid of the nonsense and the BS and all of that
Like,
stuff.
this is what it is.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can call it what it is. And I'm not trying to, like, people please or tone it down for anyone. And it was like, okay, I finally could hear the gospel message through him. And he gave a doozy of a one day, and it was about fear, you know, and I never really realized how much fear I had. I mean, he's like, what's the worst that could happen? You give your life to Jesus, he forgives you of your sins, he erases all this mess, you get to go to heaven. Like, what are you waiting for? And that's when I went to Jerry Hill afterwards. You know, my husband was like, don't you want to get the kids out of the thing first? I'm like, no, I don't. Why am I waiting? No. They're fine there for a minute. And I went up to the front. And it's not even like I had to go to the front of the church or I had to have that prayer. But it was so meaningful for me to have that touch point and that person, you know, invited into that experience for me, where it wasn't just something silent by myself. I wasn't in this alone. To have somebody else pray for me and over me. And on that day that I gave my life to Jesus, my husband rededicated his life to Jesus. Because what I didn't know while he was telling me all of these biblical sounding things is that he was the prodigal child. You know, he had given his life to Jesus in Peru as a teenager. But he was off living a crazy life, you know, doing whatever he wanted and, you know, womanizing and doing whatever. And when I started telling him, you know, I want to find which building God is in, I don't know which one it is, he was instantly struck in the heart. The Holy Spirit convicted him, like, you're not living for me, but you know the truth. How can you keep quiet? And so I didn't know, but he felt like so unworthy to be telling me about Jesus and about God and about how he works and how we're to love people, especially our enemies. We pray for them and let God work it out, and we don't have to fight people. Let God do this, and, you know, let's go to church. So he's saying all the right things, but inside he's like, but I know this is not how I've been living. I didn't know, but, you know, he charged through his emotions and feelings, and he spoke up anyway. And I'm so glad he did.
Yeah.
Because he literally saved us both, like, in one moment. You know what I mean?
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was so cool. Very, very cool.
What's life like now?
Well, a whole lot of Bible, I'll tell you that. I feel like even after giving my life to Jesus, there was a lot of marriage problems, even with my husband and I, because I wasn't reading it. I would go listen to Dave Rolfe on Sundays, and then I was spiritually starving Monday through Saturday, and I didn't really understand how to walk out this life. I had enough knowledge to know what it should look like, but not a lot of power to be able to live it out. And because I just didn't know. I didn't know my scriptures. I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know, you know, how to be a good wife. I'm like, I know I want to be one, but I don't know what that sounds like when things are going wrong or things go sideways. I wasn't recognizing even some of the spiritual battles happening right in front of my face. Like, these are not actually even conversations. This is the time to take and dial it back, and I need to go pray about these things and let God touch these hearts. And so it wasn't until I went to a women's Bible study at Calvary Chapel, Pacific Hills. I don't even know. I think it's every October they do a women's Bible study. Oops.
Was it Steadfast Love?
Oh boy, I don't remember. It was years
Was it at
ago.
night?
It was a night. Yeah. It might have been with you, huh?
Because that was the one that changed my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't even tell you what it was about, but because I was such a new Christian. I was learning just like, how do women talk? How do they go through problems? And one woman, she's moved away now, but Cherie, she actually lived right in this neighborhood. She said something that just opened my eyes. And she was talking about how she had this problem and she was reading the Bible and God had answered her. She knew now what to do. And I never connected those two dots, ever. Because in my whole experience, God was very, very, very far away and distant. I could pray all I wanted to, and my life was going to go the way it was going to go. There wasn't like a connection or any kind of, not that I want to make him do my will, but just at least to know you're there, or how am I supposed to go through this? Yeah. It was always so silent, you know? As for her to have an answer from God about something, she just knew this is the way to go. And so I left that Bible study and I looked like a crazy person. I swear I'm not schizophrenic, but that night anyone would have thought I was, because I was in the parking lot of the church saying, okay, God, I know you don't need me to read the Bible every night or every day, but I need to read it every day because I need to hear from you. I need to know how to do this. And that was it. It's not every day. Saturday and Sundays are very busy, but pretty much every single day, even if it's just a verse, I do my Bible reading. And not because I'm religious or I'm good, it's because I'm a mess. And I need to hear from him.
To stay connected.
I need to stay connected. There's so many things that are happening and swirling. And it wasn't until I started doing my regular reading. I do reading for I teach a women's Bible study on Friday. We do kids' family Bible study. That's fine. I do those readings. But I have my own schedule where I read just for me. For God to speak to me about the things that are on my heart, or things that I'm excited about, or things I'm not sure about. And that is when I saw the most growth in myself, where I normally was super hot mad about something, and it was like, oh, you know what? I kind of see this from their perspective. Okay. Or I really don't like this and it keeps happening, but it doesn't make any difference when I say something, so let me just give that to God. I'm going to pray about it. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? It's not going to change right now, but how I feel about it has changed. Mm-hmm. And then eventually it did stop, you know what I mean? But it was like God was using these things in my life to refine me as a person. And instead of always feeling like they're happening to me, I'm no longer taking a ball in the face all the time. I am prepared. I have my sword. I have my shield. I have all of these things that he's given to me, mostly just because I know how to think about them. I understand how the world works and what the devil's trying to do and what my Heavenly Father does for me, what he did for me, and how he helps empower me through his Holy Spirit to live this life out. Not perfectly, but way better than it was before I had his help. Way, way better. And that's why my life today, it looks, to a lot of people who don't understand, it looks pretty religious. It looks like a lot of Bible study and a lot of Jesus talk and a lot of Jesus music blaring out of my car, because I'm so incredibly grateful and thankful for the grace in my life. He literally changed my life. I mean, it just is so much better. I'm not without problems. There's still things that creep up, but it's not like these earthquakes that are toppling my entire life over now. Like, no matter what it is, it's like, nah, he's got this. He's got it. It's not me. It's different. I'm still same helpless hope. Like, I don't know. Stuff happens to me too. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not exempt. I'm not supernaturally strong, but I know the one who is. And I know that now, like, that love, that compassion, it's not me having a hiccup of a day. I'm like, no, that's him shining out from me. And I need if I could just stay in that vein, just keep me in that place. And then all the things that people try and don't do, it doesn't get me in a bad place. I can just stay close to him and things are good. So my husband, it's just a lot. I go from like two of the most unlikely people ever to be doing anything like we do. My husband's out there sleeping around. I'm out sleeping around. We end up finding each other. And now he's, just like this spiritual powerhead, you know what I mean? He just loves Jesus. He loves the word. He can't wait to tell me about what he read in the Bible. Sometimes I'm like, oh boy, this sermon, he's a preacher without a church. Sometimes literally almost every time I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom or I have to pee. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like 3 hours. But I love his heart.
He has a fire.
He's on fire. He loves it. And just like me until he started reading the Bible. It really just was like, it was something he knew up here, but nothing that stirred him and moved him. So yeah, we do the best we can to be good to each other and try to figure out how to raise teenage kids and little kids. And I mean, our life is a lot of Bible, a lot of Jesus, and a whole lot of soccer. He loves soccer. Jesus, soccer, and then maybe me. I'm not sure.
No, you're in there and your light shines. Like it's inspiring, you know, and I'm so glad that we had this time to discuss all this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For having me. I know it was a whole lot. Oh my God.
It's a lot. And I mean, whew.
What is your like anchor verse? What's a verse that you look to?
2 Timothy 1:7, I think is what it is. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love. And some translations say a sound mind. That's my favorite way.
That's a good one.
Yes. And here's the thing. It's not like, oh, that one verse just says what I want it to say. But when that woman at that Bible study said that God spoke to her through that, whatever she was reading, and I said, okay, I'm going to read the Bible every day. I started reading in Genesis. And I can't even tell you, it was probably like a year and a half later before I got to that verse. And I'll tell you, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, for the most part, I was like, I have no idea what I understand basically, but spiritually, my senses were very dull. Yeah. I was really a babe in the faith. And so I'm like, oh, I think I understand this. And I tell my husband, I'm so excited. Oh, I think I understand what this verse is talking about. He's like, do you pray before you read the Bible? I'm like, that's a thing. I need to read. He's like, you need to ask God to help you understand because it's a spiritual book. And so, I mean, it was like Matthew by the time he told me that. So pretty much the Old Testament, I was like, I don't know what I read, but I enjoyed my time reading. I understood on a very surface level what it was saying, like anyone else maybe. But then when I started praying for God to help me understand, what do you want me to know? How should I apply this in my life? What are you trying to tell me? It started to get a lot more interesting. Couldn't really put it all together, kind of like a 2-year-old learning to put one word here and there. I could not tell anybody really, but I could feel it working, making me stronger in my mind and in my conversation and where my conversation didn't go and where I would want it to go. I could tell God was working in me. And when I got to 2 Timothy 1:7, I mean, it really was a long time before I got to there. It was like the first time ever.
It clicked.
Oh, it was like the ball that was welcome for my face. I mean, it was just boom. I mean, it was like God was speaking like he just came off the page. And I knew, like you, I had it in my heart to start this foundation to help sexual abuse survivors. And I did all like the behind the scenes admin stuff, but I didn't want to put my face or my name or my story out there. I was like, here's a website and you can click here and I'll help you. And everyone's like, but why would they go there instead of somewhere else? Like, you know what I mean? You're going to need to tell people why you're the one to head this up. And I was like, oh, heck no, I'm not doing all that. I mean, absolutely no way. I'm not talking about all that. I'm not putting myself out there. No way. It was a no. I was telling God no. I was the Jonah going the other way. So I stopped working on the foundation. I put it down. I took down the website because I was not going to do that. And then when I got to 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us the spirit of fear. Okay, well, I was afraid of a whole lot of things. What people would think, what they would say. Just, could I even talk about it without crying? And I don't like crying. But of power. Okay, well, that's his power. It's definitely not mine. And of love. Okay, well, it is loving to say what you've gone through so other people can find their hope, you know what I mean? And see if you can get through it, I can get through it. And then of a sound mind. Like, I'm not crazy. And God gave me this strength in my mind mostly. My body is going to go through what my body's going to go through, but the devil never could take my mind. And I was going to let people know how God did it, how good he was. Mm-hmm. He kept me. And so, here I go again. We thankfully things have turned around, but at the time Oh my gosh, my husband was an illegal immigrant when I married him. The hotel that he worked at had shut down for a remodel, and most people could get some kind of compensation during that time. Well, if he tried to do that, he'd get deported and our whole life would end. Or if he even tried to get another job somewhere else, they might find out that his documents were fake, and then he'd lose both jobs. I was applying everywhere. I could not, for the first time ever in my life, could not get employed. I was a mom now at home. Oh, it was crazy. And it was clear, like, this was something God was going to have us go through. He was not going to take us out of. So we literally had $70 in the bank. And I told him, I know God wants me to start this foundation. He said, do it. And so I went on GoDaddy. I got the Fighting for Me. And the rest is history. We started this foundation. And that was it.
It's amazing when you listen.
I didn't understand then. I thought it was just to help people get counseling, which I did. And I was good at it. Somebody sent in, I'm like, I don't want to hear the stories because I've been through it. Yeah. It's very difficult for me to hear. Like, I know what
Triggering.
That sounds like, feels like. I don't want it. And I don't want anyone to feel like they got to prove to me they need it. Yeah, like, right. We even said at Fighting for Me, like, even if you think it happened and you're not sure, just send a request. Like, that's for you and the therapist to figure out. You know what I mean? And if the therapist says, actually, no, this is not this, so I'm going to need to charge this person, well, then do it on a sliding scale. But if it does fit in this box, okay, well, then it's free. I found therapists that when it came to sexual abuse, they do it for free on behalf of Fighting for Me. And so they just really, I needed their name and like a zip code so I could find something reasonably close to them. And usually within a day or two, I could find a therapist for them. Unless it was like really out in the boonies, it might take me a little bit longer to figure it out. But it was so like fun to give people what I felt like I needed. You know what I mean? I felt like, man, if I just would have, it was so expensive and I needed counseling like different times in my life at different times. And I mean, some of them were like $180 for 90 minutes or something, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not something you could do long term. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it was just felt so good to be able to be like, okay, well, there's a lot of things that you're gonna have to worry about, but this won't be one of them. So just go, and these people want to help because they're not taking a fee. They want to do this to see you through, which they're signing up for a long time. You know what I mean? We don't know how long this is gonna be. But then what I learned later as I finished the Bible, and I never finish, right? I go back to Genesis again and again, and I've just been doing that for years. And I've learned and grown, and I knew at some point, okay, well, my job is not just connecting with therapists, but it's to tell them what God has done for me. And so every single person at some point through Fight for Me has heard the gospel message. I get to tell them what Jesus did for them and how, this is not the end, and he can use these things, and that he sent his son to die for them. And over and over, I can't even tell you how many people over the phone, either at that moment where I'm connecting them to their therapist, or came back later and called and said, I want to know more about that Jesus, and gave their life to the Lord on the phone. And it was like, this is why. This is why. It's not just to put my stuff out there because it's sensational and people want to know what happened, or it's a bad headline, like a bad car accident that you can't help but look at. There was a purpose. He made me strong because he knew. You
were a shepherd.
I'm going to tell people.
You were finding lost sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And people were going to know that, you know what, you came here for a reason. Yeah. And then they need to go out and do whatever it is that God tells them to do in the way that he tells them to do it. Yeah, I'm a huge proponent. I love church, but it's like, you got to get, you got to do your broadcast. Yeah. It's not Dave Rolf's job to live out our faith for us. We all have our own thing that God has for us to do.
The purpose.
And we might think, oh, but it's so much work. It is, but it's the best work you'll ever do.
And everyone's journey is different. Everyone thinks like it's just this one thing. It's like, no, your journey is different than mine. Your journey is different than mine.
Yeah.
My husband's is different. It's like, it's not the same.
Yes.
What is your definition of God?
God. Jesus is God. Jesus, loving, kind, all-powerful, the shepherd, the one who leaves the 99, good father, safe, strong. Yeah, that's God. Jesus is God. And I think a lot of people, especially today, we want to believe like, oh, you just believe in God. Just say God, and we're all talking about the same thing. But it is not that way. It is not that way. And I know I've lived it. I can call God Jehovah and believe that that Jesus is his son and it's separate. But if you don't believe who God really is, it loses all its power. God laid down his own life. He willingly came here. He didn't have to, and he gave up everything. He went through knowingly the hell that we go through. He said, I will go through it because I love you. We went through it because we just went through it. You know what I mean? Whatever we went through, it's like we're humans. We're in a sinful life and sinful body, and we have no power or control over it, really, for the most part. But he knew. He came down off his throne, and he said, I love you. I'm going to pay the price for you. And without understanding that he is the one that did that, it just is, it loses its power. He didn't send his best representative.
The top salesman.
The top salesman, right?
No.
He said, I lay down my life for you.
Yeah.
No one takes it. And he hung there on that cross and suffered the shame and humiliation of being a criminal to pay for our sins. I mean, there really is no greater love.
Right.
There really isn't. It's not like, he jumped in front of the car at the last moment because it was just like, you need your grant. No. He knew long before what he was going to go through. And it's so painful for people to believe things about you that are not true. For him to go, not just that, but so many things that he went through so that he could say, no, that one is mine. I paid the price for her. I paid the price for him. And I love you. And it's done. It's finished. Just accept my gift. And yeah, it's such a simple message, and I wish you could get it to go into them. But that's the thing is, until the moment I heard the gospel message every Sunday, Ralph doesn't miss a Sunday, right? Or whoever he has doing it. Yeah. But until the day that I actually heard it was for me, like I knew he died for the whole world, but oh my goodness, God loves me. God is not just up there, like general terms. He saw me and loved me and sent his son for me to die. And he rose again, like all of that power in him. And he laid down his life and rose again to show me that I have hope like that too. Changed everything. I was like, yeah, I knew he loved the whole rest of the room, but I just am here. That's kind of how I felt.
I mean, it's beautifully said. It's just so beautifully said, the way your message and how you break it down and how you feel. And you can, for me, just see that kindness and love through you, through your book, through your words, through your energy, and it's inspiring.
Thank you.
Your book can be found on Amazon.
Yes. And
again, it's Fighting for Me, Overcoming Sexual Abuse and Becoming the Person I Was Meant to Be. And then you also recorded it.
I did.
On YouTube, which I'm going to post the links.
Okay,
So if anybody wants to go to that, I'll post that on our website and under the episode notes. Do you have any resources you'd like to offer out to listeners if they're victims of sexual abuse, or have you come across any resources, obviously besides the Bible, that may be useful? Or
right. Well, let's see. A couple years ago when I shut down Fighting for Me, because I'm very busy with my family now, and no one wanted to take it over, and I think it was what God wanted me to do. I guess he became clear.
Purpose.
Yeah, I
gave
felt like
you healing.
Yes, I think I needed it more than those people. They could have found anything, but Hope International University was the one school that took the most of our clients. Their interns would see a lot of our clients, and so we gave them all of our funds that we had left over. And I don't know where people are going to be listening, but there are a lot of free, if all I did was Google free sexual abuse counseling. Okay. And if you put in your area, city, or zip code, there usually is somebody. I'm not the only person out there that wants to help somebody. There are a lot of really good people, and usually they are people that believe in Jesus. They believe in the Lord. They understand helping broken people in this life is like the reason that they're here on earth, and they want to see people get to where God wants them to be. And so, you may have to advocate for yourself more than you want to, but there are good people out there that if you just say, I need help, they are willing. They really are. Even if you just say, I don't even know where to look, people will help. So I don't take it on anymore. I don't have direct services. People who know me, they do still find me, my cell phone or my email, but it would do them a great injustice to try to track me down because I just can't keep up with all of the requests. But a Google search. We live in an awesome time in that way.
Right.
Where there are a lot of people. But if somebody is in this immediate, like Orange County area, Emmaus Road Counseling, they do fill up a lot faster. Hope International University for sure has a lot of free counseling available. And I made it very specific. That money that we gave them was to help people get free counseling for sexual abuse.
And for our listeners out there that might be hearing this, what would be your advice to anyone that's listening to give about sexual abuse? Like they may be going through this. Mm-hmm. Is there anything specific that you'd want them to hear or know?
You know what? I think the most specific thing I would say is you may have to do the hard thing and just call the police yourself. There really isn't a clear A, B, C formula. I wish I could sit here and tell you if you just do this, then this will happen. But I want you to know this too. Even if you never call the police and you never tell anybody and nobody ever goes to jail, there's hope and healing in Jesus Christ. A lot of people never get a lot of the things that I got, and I do think that I'm very fortunate that I do have that legal part of my story. I don't take it for granted. A lot of people never get that far, or they have somebody on the other end that will lie to the bitter end, and they're never going to admit what they did. But it's okay, because it's not about that. It's not about you're right and they're wrong. We're all sinners. We're all wrong. And God sees it all. He sees, he cares, he knows. And so just take comfort in knowing that your journey it is not over. Do not give up, and just pray for Jesus to help you. Ask him to show you. He can bring people in your path. The most important thing that he wants is a relationship with you. And many times, no matter if it's sexual abuse or something else, it is when we are on our knees and we have run out of ourselves is when we finally are willing to hear from him. And so, you know what? For me, I count myself, I'm thankful that I went through. I wouldn't change it. The hell I went through, I'm so glad I went through it because it pushed me into his arms. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I hadn't gone through a lot of those things, I'd probably still be thinking, because I'm pretty strong, I could do this on my own. And so just know, it's sexual abuse, mental abuse. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Make the next common sense move. Is it move out? Is it go live with a grandparent? Is it call the police? Is it literally run away tonight? I've had to do that. Wait for someone to leave for work and literally find a secret place, an apartment, and a job. Do what you need to do. We don't just give up our rights and let the devil take us out. No, we see it and we make a move. But know this, that when other people that we think are supposed to show up in a certain way and they don't, or they don't know how to, it's okay. God's got you. Don't give up. Just keep going. And by all means, understand the most important thing that you could ever have in this life into the next is a relationship with Jesus Christ. You need him. And it's not even me or fighting for me or this podcast. We need him. And he's just right there waiting for you.
Yeah.
He's right there.
I need you to make up my bed when
Thank you for joining us as we finish talking with Amanda about her journey as a lost sheep. Her story is proof that God will leave the 99 to rescue the one. If you're feeling lost, you can email us directly at lostsheepfoundpodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out through our website at lostsheepfoundpodcast.com. We're here to listen, and if you need guidance, we'll put you in touch with the right people. Want to know when the next episode is available? Subscribe on our website, lostsheepfoundpodcast.com, or follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music.
and the ice and snow melts away. When the tears we've cried have all run dry and we find the rainbow's end, we'll be walking in the sunshine, walking in the sunshine, walking in the sunshine with him.